as weird and as awful and as frustrating as this pause in the NBA season has been, realizing the real world is kind of influencing the toy department of the life, getting to connect with Dub Nation and talking to you guys and gals is really something we look forward to. And certainly having Steve is something I've looked forward to, because Steve, the most important thing of having you on the season ticket holder town hall is that you haven't been in the media. There's been hardly any interviews. I haven't seen you publicly. Like, you've been a recluse. This has been a very odd time for you. Have you done anything media-wise? I haven't seen anything for some reason.
Yeah, Raymond Ritter has me doing one or two things every hour. So, yeah, you just need to turn on the TV, Bob. You'll see something.
The one I want to start with, just from a human level, is you and your family, and you've talked about how much cooking you guys are doing, that the nightly ritual of making dinner. Is it Steve Kerr, the head coach, or is it Margot Kerr and Steve as a role player in these dinner-making endeavors? And tell me about that.
Yeah, I just live here. I follow directions pretty well, but no, this has been a time where obviously we're all well aware of what's happening around the country, and so many people are dying, suffering with their health, struggling with the economy, jobs. So there's so much going on that we're concerned with. We know how lucky we are to be able to be with family and to be able to spend time together and actually kind of just wait this thing out. And that's what we're doing. And with 3 kids in their 20s, we rarely get everybody under the same roof. And so as a mom and dad, as parents, Margot and I have actually really enjoyed, the time with our kids. And we're, as you mentioned, we're cooking almost every night. We've had more family dinners than we've had over the last probably 3 years combined. So we're trying to make the most of our time together, but also well aware, as I said, of what's happening out there.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing for the season ticket holders and all the Warrior family, is that we acknowledge the reality of the real world, but at the same time, if we can provide a little diversion, a little contact, and a feeling of togetherness, talking about something we love in the Warriors and basketball, we're going to do that this afternoon. Steve, a ton of the season ticket holder questions are about The Last Dance. And to me, I think it was so great that it was, a couple decades after, so we can appreciate 22 years later. I thought about you quite a bit watching a lot of those episodes, and John Paxson, I was communicating with him as well, is that how was it to watch that with your family and relive those years and think about that stage of your life and your career? And it had to be amazing to have that opportunity 22 years later and see it so documented so fully.
Yeah, that was probably the best part, because, my kids at the time were toddlers or babies. And, in 98, our youngest son, Matthew, was actually born in March of 98. So he obviously doesn't remember any of it. Our older 2 have some faint memories of everything, but to watch it now and for them to see what our lives looked like back then was really, really fun. And, a lot of the footage I had never seen. And so it was really interesting to get a glimpse, behind the curtain, even though I was there. I had forgotten a lot of that stuff. So it was fun to watch.
Were you aware during the year that there were cameras everywhere, or did it just become so normal? It was Clay's uncle, Andy Thompson, that was involved in so much of it. But, we've traveled, obviously, for decades in this league. Was it, there's the cameras, or just they kind of blended into the wall after a while?
Well, I think they blended in pretty well after a while. The first couple of months, it was strange because, our locker room was pretty tight and closed in all the years under Phil Jackson. He was old school in that regard. Locker room is sacred. People aren't allowed in here unless they're supposed to be in here. And then all of a sudden, before that season, he announces, hey, there's going to be a camera crew following us around, everybody kind of looked around like, this is a departure from our usual way of going about our business. So it was strange, but it was helped that we all knew Andy Thompson and the group from NBA Entertainment. We had seen them for many years, and we had a trust there. And then I think after a couple of months, it felt more normal, and we were able to kind of just go about our business.
You know, you're in that unique ability to the Bulls dynasty, the Spurs dynasty, the Warriors dynasty. You're one of the, you know, the common threads that runs through it. And I think of you as that player. And what I loved about it is it showed, hey, Steve Kerr, Tony Kukoc, these guys rose to the biggest moments at the biggest times. And I know Michael Jordan, you know, was the subject of so much of it, but one basketball thing I got to run by you is that Game 7 against Indiana, the chance for the Bulls to be derailed, to not win the title. Michael and Scotty went 15 of 43 in Game 7. You had 11 points. Kukoc had 21 points. I know you made the shot against Utah, but Steve, that Game 7, to me, that's one of the critical turning points in basketball history, because that would have been Reggie Miller and eliminating the Bulls and the whole bit. Did that kind of bring up that game in particular when they showed it?
Yeah, that was a scary game. It was the only time we ever went 7 games with the Bulls in the playoffs, at least while I was there for the second three-peat. I think they did one time against the Knicks, maybe in '92. But that game and that series was really, really tough. And what I remember most from that game, like a lot of Game 7s, the shooting on both teams was bad. Both teams missed a ton of free throws. We just dominated the offensive glass. We had a ton of second chance points, and it was mostly just Michael and Scotty just imposing their will, after missed shots, following their shots, getting rebounds and getting fouled. And it was such a different game back then. That's the other thing. The pace was so slow, and every possession the ball was walked up the floor. Looked like a different sport almost. But one of the great things about being part of that team was, even though you knew the championships were being driven and basically won by Michael and Scotty, if you're part of the team, you got a chance to make some big plays and some big shots. And it was fun to be in those situations at times.
And so I don't know if you meant this intentionally, but I just got a little kick and a smile every time you appeared in the documentary in your Warriors shirt. I thought that was like the coolest thing, because, I think it was hey, Steve lived through the Bulls, the Spurs, and the Warriors. And even during this Bulls homage, there was a little Warrior love in there. And that I just got a little kick out of that. I don't think that was intentional. They grabbed you in a hotel room on the road and did the big interview segments. But, did you look back and go, hey, wait a minute, I'm wearing the Blue Warriors shirt?
Yeah, it was funny. It was the interview was done a year and a half ago when we were in New York to play the Knicks. And I had forgotten about the interview, so we came back from practice. Mm-hmm. Raymond had told me about this interview beforehand, but I completely spaced out. I got a workout at the gym where we practiced. I come back to the hotel late. These guys are waiting in the lobby, and they got this huge production. They had rented a suite. There's got to be 20 people in there and 1 million cameras. And I felt so bad. I'm like, oh my God, and so I didn't even take a shower. I just ran up and did the interview. And as soon as I sat down, I thought, I like this. I got my Warrior shirt on. So, this is going to show pretty well. But what happened when we sat down to watch it was my daughter and my wife immediately turned to me and they said, you couldn't take a shower and fix your hair before the interview?
Well, you said, hey, hardly anybody's going to watch this. It's not going to be that big a deal. So
we definitely didn't know it was going to happen during a pandemic with nothing else on TV. But as you can tell by today, I rarely prepare, for interviews as far as, shower and shampoo.
So when I think about the pause here, the one positive is that I think it's given people an appreciation to breathe a little bit on the Warrior side of things, from fans to front office to players, coaches, the whole bit, and really appreciate what the Warriors have accomplished the last 7 years and the 5 trips to the finals. And to see NBA history, and we've done a lot of where are they now with players, and look back on We Believe, and then certainly the Facebook Live page has the making of Steph and making of Clay and making of Draymond, and so many great Warrior moments and incredible accomplishments. But I think this next chapter, Steve, you have a chance to do something that really has never been done, and even the Bulls team didn't do it. Russell's Celtics went off a cliff, and then Magic's Lakers, and Michael's Bulls, and the Spurs are running out their run. But the Warriors have had this 5 straight trips to the finals, this one really tough year. But the chance to be good really quickly with guys in their early 30s and a nice mix of young players and draft picks and this and that. Do you ever think now, wait a minute, we've had all this history, but unlike the Bulls, we're not done. Like there's a pause and a chance to refresh, but give me the next challenge. Let's look forward to that.
Yeah, I think we're all excited about the opportunity to get good again. And we're so lucky to have Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. I mean, those guys are just so good, and they're so they complement each other so well, and they both have a lot of basketball left in them. So I think we look at this as an opportunity to refresh, recharge, replenish, with the draft and free agency. And, with some good health, knock on wood, we feel like we can be contenders again, but there's a lot of work ahead, and I don't spend a lot of time thinking about, where we stand in history. I'm just locked in on this year and how we can get better. And during this pandemic, it's the first time that Bob Myers and I have really had a chance to breathe during this last 5.5 years. And usually season ends, we're all fried from the finals. We get away for a few weeks and then we're right into the next season almost. This has given us a much better chance to look inward and to assess and to figure out where we can do better. And I think it's been really productive. Bob and Mike Dunleavy and I are talking every week about every aspect of our game and our personnel. And we've tried to make the most of it. It's been a very productive time.
Yeah, I mean, I think to me, the loyalty of Dub Nation and the season ticket holders, the renewal rate for next year is 95%, which just speaks to how anxious the fans are to see the next edition of the Warriors. And from all the people in our organization that I'm around and still able to either golf with or see or spend time with, when you think about Steph, Clay, Draymond, Steph's the same age that Jordan was when he came back from baseball. And the Bulls won 3 more titles after that. So if he's the old guy at 32 and Clay and Draymond are younger, but then you say Steph, Clay, Draymond, Wiggins, Marquise, Chris, Pascal, found in Damian Lee and Mulder, have Jordan Poole, have a lottery pick. Like the more you think about it, Steve, the more you get excited and anxious. And, it's fun to talk with Warrior people and fans because there is that anticipation of, let's make another charge at this, and you're going to be at the head of that thing.
Yeah, and I think that's why this year, despite the record, and who knows, maybe we'll resume and play some more regular season games, or maybe we won't. We don't know at this stage. But if you just look at the season that till now, 15-50, obviously a rough record. We look at it as a very productive season because we watched Eric Pascal emerge. We watched Jordan Poole make dramatic improvement. We made the deal for Andrew Wiggins that has allowed us to replenish that wing core. We lost so much length and athleticism on the wing with Sean, Livingston, Andre, Kevin Durant, all leaving. We needed that size that Andrew has brought. Clay's going to come back to give us more of that defensive versatility. So, you start thinking about all that. You throw Marquise into the mix, who developed at a really good rate. This was an important season for us to help us replenish, and I think the fans have a lot to look forward to next year, and we're all excited to hopefully play in front of them. We'll see how that all pans out, but we are all so thankful for the privilege to play in front of Bay Area basketball fans, because I've seen this now. I've been in the NBA in some form for 32 years now. Every year, it doesn't matter how the Warriors do. Every year, the crowds are amazing, and so we're lucky to play in front of them.
One thing too, and this is where the Warriors, continue to lead the way, is that, you got into the broadcasting thing, the Flying Coach podcast with Pete Carroll, really to raise money for a lot of worthy cause for people and organizations in need. And one of the coolest ones was you donated $100,000 for the Oakland school system for laptops so kids could do, remote learning and things like that. But you did it with this podcast with Pete Carroll, where you've had Bill Murray and Michael Lewis and Dave Roberts and, all these people on. First of all, you're working my side of the street, so stay out of the broadcasting thing, get back to coaching. But how has that experience been? And certainly the motivation to really be a community citizen, which is something that the Warriors always strive to do.
Well, it's been a lot of fun. Pete and I have been friends for about 6 years. I went up to Seattle before I became the Warriors coach to watch them at work. I just loved Pete's style. I love the energy. I love the joy that his teams played with. And Pete has been a really good mentor for me. He's somebody who's been in coaching for almost 40 years. So he's been a great mentor, and we've stayed in contact over the years. And when the pandemic and the quarantine began, we were just talking on the phone one day, and we just got to talking about, what can we do? How can we help? So we decided on this podcast. Nobody else was doing anything like this. And, Spotify took us on, and they made these big donations through the Warriors Foundation and the Seahawks Foundation, $100,000 to each. And then Pete and I were able to earmark, wherever that money was going to go. And through the Warriors Foundation and Hewlett Packard as well, we were able to make these donations to both Oakland City Schools and San Francisco City Schools. So really, really proud of the work that everybody with the Warriors organization does in the community, our players and the foundation itself, and just trying to help however we can.
Well, and I think that speaks to this is, unprecedented times. And so how can the Warriors be more than just a basketball team? And I think that's something that the Warrior Foundation has always led the way. And, I think the podcast was a great idea, and it just speaks to kind of the culture and where we want to be in the community. Did you like being a media member? You like asking the questions? How different has that been as opposed to being on the other side?
Well, I was, as you remember, I was a media member for 8 years.
You're a phenomenal color analyst. That's true.
Thanks. You're too kind. But 8 years with Turner. In fact, probably the best game I've ever done, and I know I said it on the telecast. The best atmosphere I've ever seen was the We Believe team, the deciding game against Dallas. 06? Was that 06?
Yeah.
06.
06, 07, yeah.
06, 07. Yeah. So that game was the greatest atmosphere I've ever seen and ever been a part of. And I'm not exaggerating. I've never heard anything that loud. And so to do that game was such a privilege. And Marv Albert and I worked the game, and it was just incredible. And to feel the crowd, to feel the energy, it was a good reminder to me a few years later when I had the chance to become the Warriors coach, just how much fun it would be to coach in front of Bay Area fans.
People always ask you, Stephen, we have a lot from the season ticket holders I'm going to get to in a second, but it's always did you take from Lute Olson or Lenny Wilkins or Phil Jackson or Greg Popovich? The one thing from The Last Dance that I think you were pretty honest about now is that playing on an elite team and having a Michael Jordan, a Scottie Pippen, there was some real tough love there, demanding of teammates and great success. And guys look back and you obviously appreciate success, but your style and mission with the Warriors is success, joy, fun, silliness, seriousness, caring about the whole person. Like, I think your experience informed maybe how, if you got to run something, which you've done expertly, you know what, it'd be a little different, that you'd want to have more of the whole experience, where it's not 20 years from now they're doing a Warrior documentary and they're thinking, Steve Kerr ground me into the dirt to make it good, more than we all worked together to make things fun and we were good.
Well, your culture is largely driven by your players, and so I think the coach can provide the vision and the mission. Here's where we want to go. Here's why we're doing it, and here's how we're going to do it. But unless your players really believe in that vision, it's not going to work. But the joy that I talk about is perfectly exemplified by Steph Curry. I've never been around an athlete who enjoys himself more while he's competing at an incredibly high level than Steph. And so Steph really sets the tone for us as an organization. And so my job is to try to get the most out of Steph and the group, and to foster, to feed that culture. And what we're really trying to find, Fitzy, is the perfect balance between the joy and the competitiveness. Because that's, if you think about our team, Draymond Green's as fierce a competitor as you'll ever find. And everybody who's watched our games knows that. But you may not know that Clay and Steph are equally as competitive. So it's possible to find this balance between competitiveness and joy. And that's what I'm searching for as a coach. And that's what Steph Curry is all about. And that's the culture we try to build. And I think what's been really cool is it's been all inclusive. We talk about strength in numbers. The fans see that. And I think that's something that's one of the reasons our fans love Steph and,
sure.
and Clay so much. When they're playing at a high level, you see the joy in their faces, and that joy just translates to the entire arena. It's like a religious experience. It's just an amazing feeling that just goes through your whole body.
Have you thought that the next edition of the team will be different in the sense that Steph, Clay, Draymond, the engine, but so much youth? I mean, Marquise and Pascal and Wiggins and Mulder and, Damian Lee, you're going to have a lottery pick. Is that there isn't the Zaza, David West, Barbosa, Sean, Andre, like that. There was a veteran group in addition to Steph, Clay, Draymond rising. Now they're the linchpins and the vets, but you're gonna have a mix of younger and older players, maybe unlike you've ever had in any edition of the team. That's got to be pretty exciting, and it's going to be a different coaching challenge for you, I think. It
will. And I think, one of the things with the guys you just mentioned, David West, Leandro, Bogues, Andre, Sean, those guys really were the vets who kept the ship going straight every day. And the stars were really the younger players,
right.
Steph, Clay, Draymond, Kevin. So now the dynamic has shifted. Those stars are also now the vets. So they have an even greater burden on their shoulders, because they not only have to produce, but they have to lead, because all these young guys have to learn. They've got to learn how to win. And that was a big part of this season, this past season, just trying to figure out what's what for all these young players. We'll probably try to add, another veteran or two, because I think you need that balance. But it's for sure going to be a challenge. And every year is different. I think that's what makes it fun, both to coach and to watch as a fan. You get to see a team grow. You see them on day one. You see them at the end of the season. You're really watching this whole process unfold. And it's really fun to be a part of.
All right, you ready to be grilled by the season ticket holders? I have the questions in front of me here. So some of them these are really good. It's like, let me start with the easy. Like, why did you wear jersey 25?
I wore 25 because I had two high school teammates, and at Palisades High School in the Los Angeles area. They were both a year older than me. One went to Cal. His name was Leroy Smith. The other went to USC. His name was Kevin Stewart. And they both wore 25. They decided to wear the same number, and I thought that was really cool. We were all good buddies, and we've kept in touch since, and we text each other. And so when I went to Arizona, I'd actually worn 24 in high school, but I just figured, I got to follow my guys and be 25 too.
All right, what's the similarity between the Bulls and the Warriors that most people wouldn't know?
I think the competitive desire, you see Michael Jordan's fire, and you watch The Last Dance, you see how hard he drove guys. Then you watch us and you see Steph shimmying and dancing. You think, oh, these are two totally different teams. They're actually very similar. The competitive fire that our team has is equal to that the Bulls had. Draymond in many ways is Michael in the way that he leads and the pressure that he puts on his teammates. So we're also extremely versatile defensively, like those Bulls teams were. If you watch some of those games, that was the key to those Bulls teams. You had Ron Harper, Pippen, Jordan, Kukoc, Dennis Rodman. They could all switch. They could all guard everybody. And all our fans have watched the same thing over the last 5 years, just switchable, positionless players who can all make plays and guard multiple spots.
All right, this is from a season ticket holder, but I think it's such a perceptive question. And I think one of the real keys to Steve Kerr is, because you were such a great role player, do you feel that one of the keys to your success as a coach is having that experience and how you embrace, value, and enhance everyone down the roster?
Yeah, I learned that from Phil Jackson. Phil was the first coach that I had ever had who wasn't afraid to put the 12th man in to a game in the middle of the second quarter, just randomly. A guy hasn't played in 4 or 5 games, and then boom, there he is. And inevitably, if that guy was in his first year, he'd be looking around like, me? And it's, yeah, you get out there. And I saw the power in that. And yes, part of the reason is because I was that guy for about half my career. And oftentimes with teams where the coach didn't do that, where I just rotted on the bench. And when you never play, you just don't feel vested. You don't feel like you're part of it. And Phil just had this knack for being able to throw guys out into situations and keeping them ready. And it just kept the core of the team so much stronger. It invested everybody, and it made every day just feel more connected. And so I've tried to follow suit.
Playing time is the ultimate, Steve, but because there's only 12 to 15 guys on a team, have you found that just checking in with guys, whether it's a practice or a plane flight, how's your family? How are your kids? How are your mom and dad? How's your girlfriend? That they just know, hey, the head coach knows I'm still here and is still trying to, keep me in the fold with the group. Is that something that you've gone out of your way to try to do?
Yeah, I think, Phil, again, was great with that. So was Pop in San Antonio. I just think it's easier to coach somebody if you know them. If you know what's important to them, if you know their significant other, their kids, if you're genuinely interested in them, then you're going to find out about their lives. And once you know somebody, it's just much easier to offer some advice, criticism, judgment, whatever it is, because now there's a trust factor there that we're all just trying for the same thing.
This is a good one. You mentioned getting more time to watch players for the upcoming draft, and I know with Zoom interviews and things like that, and you mentioned you and Bob and Mike and Joe and Kirk and everybody able to have so many more conversations. But is that a little different that, okay, finals, breathe for a second, here's the draft, here's the free agency, getting to look at video of draft prospects and looking at lottery picks and putting you were a GM in addition to being a broadcaster in a former life, putting your GM hat on to kind of talk with Bob about that stuff. That's got to be a little different than years past for you.
Totally different. And I hope that we go back to the old way soon. But no, that it's been something that I've enjoyed. Just having this extra time. Bob and his staff have sent me film to watch on all these different players we're considering, and it's been a lot of fun. And just being part of the process has been really, really interesting. And Bob is always making sure everybody's involved. He does a great job of sort of creating a consensus and collecting information and making everybody, much like a coach, playing the 12th man. Bob takes everybody's advice
Sure.
before making the judgment and the final decision. And it's really fun to watch Bob work.
The last one from the season ticket holders, it's a broad one, but you're pretty thoughtful on these, is what is your favorite coaching memory? I mean, that's a hard one with the years, success and titles, but is there a memory that might not jump out to everybody that you kind of hold dear that's still kind of a really cool one for you?
I suppose on a really personal level, I will share this one. My first year coaching, I came in with all these big ideas and, grand plans, and deep down, I had no idea if any of it would work. I mean, you come in and you plan for something and you just kind of, you hold your breath and you go, all right, I hope I can make this connection, and I hope we can win some games, and I hope these plays that we're putting in work. And so, a lot of that first year, that training camp, we were playing well, but I was a little nervous. And we played a game in LA. It was maybe the 12th game of the year. We played the Lakers, and we had a 4-day break after the game. And I told the players, I said, guys, listen, if we handle our business tonight, I'm going to give you the next 2 days off. And I might as well have told them all that I was going to give them $1 million each or something. You couldn't imagine the excitement in that locker room. Andre Iguodala was like, oh, hell yeah, I got 2 days of golf coming up. Don't F this up, guys. Come on, let's go. And we went out, and the Lakers were down, at that season. But we went out and we won. And we scored like 138 points, and we won. We just trounced them. And I came down to San Diego, which is our family home, because I'd given the guys 2 days off, and I like to surf. I hadn't surfed in a while because of the season, and I went out and I surfed, which is just an amazing feeling to start with. But I just remember being out on my surfboard thinking, we're 10-2, the guys are happy, this stuff's working. This is going to work. It's going to happen. And it was one of the best feelings I've ever had.
All right, I'll give you the final word here for the season ticket holder town hall here. 95% renewal rate with the season ticket holders. And I don't want to speak totally for the organization, but I will tell you the Warriors will have the gold standard for safety and sanitation and making it as great an experience and a healthy experience when we do come back and play. I can guarantee you that. With so many quality people working to put their best foot forward, we will be leading the way in that area. Give the season ticket holders a final thought from Steve Kerr. If you could reach out to all of them and say something, what would you say?
Well, number one, stay safe and stay healthy and look after each other. I think, between the pandemic and the racism that we've been witnessing, with recent events and really events over a long period of time, this should be a time of reflection for all of us and a time for action, and I think we've got to find, I don't think we can just say, hey, let's try to get back to normal. Let's try to create a new normal. Let's look after each other. Let's show some compassion to everybody, but let's demand equal justice, equal rights for all of our citizens. And let's. I know it sounds trite or whatever, but we've got to do a better job, every one of us individually, of demanding social justice. And while we're doing that, we've got to find a way to not only stay safe and healthy, but to try to keep other people safe and healthy as well. So there's a lot going on these days, and it feels like a seminal moment in our lives. I don't know if it feels that way to you. It seems like this is the start of something big, and we've got to do all we can to look after each other.
No, I think it's really well said. Steve, great seeing you. Great having that conversation. I miss actually being near you, although I'd love electronically. The one request, and this is from all the people that love you, no more beard. No more beard.
No more beard, okay.
Put the beard in the rear view.
One-shot deal, one-time deal.
Thanks for taking the time, Steve. Good seeing you.
You too. See you, Fitzy.
We want to thank all the season ticket holders for joining us. All of us at the Warriors can't wait to see you at some point in the future, but we will be in touch with various people throughout the organization. And congrats on the renewal rate. The Warriors will be back, and this next chapter, next edition, is going to be super fun. Thanks again for joining us today. We appreciate it.